We are going to make a super simple sugar wash. Many times this is made for if you need to break in your still. It's called a sacrifice run because you're not going to be using any grains. But many people will use just a sugar wash to make their moonshine. To make this wash, you need 5 pounds of sugar. Plain, cheap, white sugar will do. Set your bowl on it. Now if it goes over a ½ ounce, don't worry about it. So what we did off camera to save you time, we brought about 2 gallons of filtered water to almost a boil, and we turned off the heat, and that's where we're at right now. We're going to show you the next step. You definitely can do this while the heat is on and it's boiling. Let me fast forward and I'll be right back. It is best to have some kind of thermometer to read the temperature of this once the sugar dissolves. We like to use an infrared. I use it for soap making, baking, everything. The sugar is dissolved and it's 137 degrees.
We're going to pour this into our fermenting container. You can use a 5-gallon bucket. We're going to use a glass bubbler. You could use a 5-gallon container that is food grade. We prefer 5-gallon glass because we can see what's going on.
Now, can you take that hot water and put it into the glass? Is it safe?
Yes, 140 degrees. This jar is a special jar designed for the hot liquid. It's extra thick.
Now, do we have to write down the temperature right now on anything?
No, we have lukewarm water. We've already filled the jug up about halfway with 75-degree water.
Meaning this isn't something you have to record?
Correct, not at this point.
Since this is glass, only thing I like to use when stirring glass is a wooden paddle. This is great. I got this one from Amazon. I actually have the label. It's a Cajun stir paddle. If you're going to use glass, highly recommend it. I'm just gonna give this a quick stir. What's next, Ray?
Take a temperature reading to see how close we can get to the temperature for adding yeast. So we want to check a temperature reading to get us into the 9,500 degree mark.
What is it right now?
It's 103.
It's a little too hot. That will kill the yeast. Target is 95 to 100 degrees.
So we're going to go ahead and add water. Right now we can add basically another gallon. We're going to go get a gallon of about 90-degree water. That'll bring us down about 5 degrees.
And we are back. We used the same pot that we cooked the sugar water in case there's any extra little sugar in the bottom. We're going to dump about probably a ½ gallon in this and take a temperature reading. Remember, we're looking for 95 to 100 before we add the yeast.
Just follow the instructions on your yeast packet that comes. Some are higher range, some are lower range.
True. Today's yeast, we're using a DADY yeast. It's Red Star Distiller yeast, and it's Distiller's Active Dry Yeast, DADY. So if you ever see that in a blog or somebody talking about it, that's what they're usually talking about. This one requires 0.25 teaspoons of yeast per gallon of wort. We're going to use 5 gallons, so we're going to use approximately 0.25 teaspoons per gallon of wort.
So about 1½ to 2 teaspoons.
We're going to add a ¼ cup of raisins right now to the water while it's 100 degrees.
The purpose of adding the raisins, we do not have a yeast nutrient, so we're using the raisins to feed the yeast. This is a sugar wash. Sugar wash does not have a lot of the nutrients that you would with a grain, so we're adding the raisins just to give the yeast a little extra boost. 98.6. 98.6.
So with this infrared, as you see, the temperature inside by putting it there and outside reads the same. Once you give it a stir, and you get everything mixed well, then the temperature reading will be inside and out the same.
There's a 5-gallon mark increment on the side, which is way up here. That wouldn't leave us enough headspace. So we're gonna do about 4 3/4.
We're at 97, ideal. We like to keep it between 95 and 100 before we add our yeast. Now there are 3 methods to adding yeast. I'm only going to go over and show you what we do. We add the yeast, we sprinkle it on top, and we just let it sit. There are other shiners that will proof the yeast in a little bit of warm water and then add that. And then there are other ones that will add the yeast and stir it until it's dissolved. Do what works best for you. What are you doing now, Ray, before you add the yeast?
We're taking a original gravity, OG.
And now we're going to take our first original gravity reading. I like to use a turkey baster. I have 2 of them, stainless steel and a glass. They don't leave this room, so they're only meant for making mash. There's no oils or anything in them. So I already placed the hydrometer in the glass test tube. Keep doing this until the hydrometer starts to float. The very first thing before you take a reading, there's 2 reasons why you need to spin this. Spin it gently, it removes the bubbles, and number 2, it makes it so it doesn't stick from the side. It needs to be on a flat surface, and you need to be eye level. You need to read the bottom of the line not where it comes in down at an angle.
It's 1.05.
So you write that number down, that's your first reading. We're looking for a target of 1.09. We're gonna add approximately 1 more cup of sugar. We're going to take some of this sugar wash out, mix it, and pour it back in. Give it a stir really well, and we're gonna take another reading.
1.05 would have been great for a sacrifice run. No use in adding more sugar. To get more quantity out of the alcohol, 1.09 works a lot better. It's 12% potential alcohol. So we're gonna go ahead and demonstrate by adding the sugar how much it rises on the scale. This is a 1 cup of sugar dissolved in water. 1 cup is equal to about a half a pound.
Stir it very well, and then we're gonna take another reading. We're at 95.9. Temperature is still ideal. Check out my video, how to use a specific gravity hydrometer. See it bouncing, that's perfect. Now Ray, do you always have to fill it to the top?
Only until it floats. That only changed it about to 1.057. You would need to add about 3 more pounds of sugar to get into your target.
Which means our initial wash would be about 9 pounds of sugar, 5 gallons of water.
Correct. This just demonstrates that you can see how much it rises every time you add a pound of sugar.
And it's always best to start with a little bit of sugar at a time because it's easier to make it stronger than it is to make it weaker when you're almost filled to the top of the vessel.
And once you have this recipe written down on your sheet, you won't have to guess. You can get right within ballpark. So next time you add 8 pounds of sugar, it's a little under, add another 2 cups, 3 cups, and you're right on target.
So Ray, are we gonna leave this at 1.05?
Absolutely.
So we'll change it to 5.5 pounds of sugar, and our reading is 1.05. What do we do next?
Now we're getting ready to pitch in the yeast.
And as you remember, we're gonna be needing about 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons. We'll sprinkle it on top. So follow your instructions. Ours says 0.25 per gallon. To make it easy, I just add 2 full teaspoons of yeast. I'm not going to stir it because I never do. I just let it sit and quote proof, just like when I make my breads. This will take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes. You'll see it start to proofing and it will start foaming. Then you know that it's activating. And I would experiment. Do one time where you proof the yeast in a little bit of warm water and then add it. The next time do it the way we did it. And a third time, do it the way we did it, but constantly stir until it's dissolved. See which result you like better. There is no right or wrong, they will all work. I personally just like to leave it.
I'm trying to capture this where you see the yeast going to the bottom, down by the nutrients, and settling in.
And the reason we like to use the glass, besides it's glass and not plastic, is we like to teach others, and this visually, you can see what's going on over the next 5 to 10 days as it's fermenting. When you have a 5-gallon bucket, you cannot see really and visually what is going on. Having glass is awesome, but for visually, it's a great conversation starter. You can leave it on your counter, walk by, hear the blip, blip, blip. It's very, very exciting to have glass. Easier to clean, you can stick your whole hand down there versus the other glass with the small nozzles. We'll also show you that in another video, but the wide mouth is the best way you can clean this. It literally takes under 2 minutes to sterilize this jar between uses.
This is the top that comes with it. Has a hole in it for the airlock. This is your airlock. When you order a glass bubbler, it has a large hole. You'll have to get an airlock that comes with a stopper.
We'll leave the link below if you're interested. We get these off of Amazon where we buy all our brewing supplies. You wanna put your lid on, make sure it's tight sealed. Kind of give it a little twist. There you go. Now you can either add filtered water or what we did, we added finished product, and that's 100 proof moonshine. Give it a good push. I try to make sure it's level. I'm gonna say within 30 seconds, we should start seeing blips. Oh, let's snap this top on. So you need to have that snapped on. This has to be tight and this has to be tight. We did not touch this jar, and as you see, it's starting to come up. And this is when this is gonna happen. This will start foaming. And the yeast will become very active. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Your airlock will start speeding up maybe every 4 seconds over the next day or 2. It will become slower and slower toward the end of the 5th, 7th, or 10th day. When it comes to a stop for a few hours without moving, then you know your fermentation has completed, or you can take another reading with the hydrometer that we used today. And that will be called your FG, your final gravity. You need to add that to your batch records.
But when it's complete, it has a .990, or it will say 0% potential alcohol. It should be right on top of that blue and up to the white line.
And here it is about 1 hour later. I just wanted to show you how it's still working. When you use grain, I will insert a picture of how the beautiful golden color will be up here. But since this is a sugar wash, this is what it should look like. This is about an hour and the yeast is very active. The raisins are coming to the top. Beautiful. Most important, don't forget to add your grain bill. We put it into a bag. We put a lanyard on it because we have several of these going. And then once this gets done, we'll transfer the notes to a larger data sheet that we add the grain bill to. See more below for our affiliates and for our blog for free printables. Please subscribe and consider joining our private Facebook group. I'll leave the link below.